To me, as a newcomer, I think it's great. I think that will really, really perfect, refine the user experience, the purchasing experience, and the conversion rate, making the user, instead of 3% to 5% conversion rate to buy the virtual goods, this is actually much higher conversion. So you're paying, Facebook 30%, but your conversion rate is much higher, right? Because Facebook, number one, it controls all these 450 million and growing base. And people like that, the one-shop place, right? And then there is credibility issue also. So they can definitely push this. In the long run, that for the games developers, it's probably a good thing. It raises your conversion rate.
Well, they're doing it right. When you're dealing with people's, credit card numbers and stuff like that, you got to be, it's not something that you just, hey, we put together Facebook credits and just throw it out in the world.
Yeah.
So, Facebook's being smart by taking their time. Nobody's holding against them that, it's not launched to the public yet, for app developers to be able to integrate.
They definitely have means to push it down to all the developers. And so there are a bunch of ways it can go, right? They can introduce it as an alternative payment and use their own power to proliferate it to Facebook users, and then it's just an add-on to game developers. Another way to go is to say, we're going to use you, game developers, to push this currency down to our users by telling you that you're going to get certain limitations if you guys are not going to use Facebook credits. But then it introduces a huge complexity for the gaming companies, because all of a sudden, instead of paying 4% to PayPal or 2.5% to Visa and MasterCard, we now all of a sudden have to pay 30% to Facebook.
Yeah.
And how they would go about it clearly is their choice and their decision, and that changes the dynamics of the whole gaming space quite considerably, quite fast. And so they decided probably to ignore it for now.
Yeah.
In a sense, to say, you know what, we're not going to push anything down to you guys. If you want to use credits, you can use it. If you don't want to use credits, you don't use it. We are just interested in you as the drivers of our growth. So what it suggests to us is that Facebook still goes for growth. They're not trying to squeeze anybody in any way, shape, or form unless it naturally happens. And it's probably there is another year before they are really jumping hardcore into the monetization part of that wonderful platform that they built.
Without a doubt, yeah, and we're building that portion of our application now.
Cool.
Where right now it's retail brands selling physical goods, but there's definitely everything from music to movie delivery. All that can be done, and Facebook credits works perfectly for that.
Right now virtual goods are really thought of as things like stuff in Farmville or something like that. But there's a lot of there's electronic goods in the sense of access to pieces of content that have a lot of value as well. So that's actually what I see first. What happens if you're pay one Facebook credit to get access to your favorite webcomic for a week, or to get a special edition of that webcomic. That sort of thing is where I see the low-hanging fruit in the immediate terms, things that are sort of microtransactions. Then I see it starting to scale up to larger and larger goods ultimately. Honestly, I don't think you're ever going to be using credits to buy, a TV online, because it doesn't make sense to having virtual currency for that. But ultimately, Facebook is going to have your credit card info. They can charge on your behalf, and so ultimately I see them offering really PayPal sorts of services.
I think it'll happen when it becomes a simple form of payment, and when brands get to the point where they're trying to drive transactions on Facebook.
Right.
Because for now you can build social connections, you can build context around products, and you can get people to share product information with their friends, and that is a big win.
Yeah.
If the transaction happens outside of Facebook, that's fine for now. But I think in a year that won't need to be the case. Maybe it's because credits are so flexible and the barriers are so low that brands will use them to actually allow purchasing of real world objects. But for now, the fees are too high.
Yeah, that's the main.
And also the goals can be accomplished through other means. Like you don't have to drive the transaction on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's sort of a nice to have right now.
Well, it's great for micropayments. It's great for for virtual goods. You know, I mean, part of the thing is right now, Facebook Credits has a 30% tax.
Right.
You know, so unlike using a credit card to make a purchase or even PayPal, where you know you're talking about 3%, 4%, 2%, you know, tax on that purchase. You know, with Facebook taking a 30% cut on that, it really isn't viable for a lot of retailers of physical goods because I mean they just can't afford to take out 30% to transact that fee.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't think that's always going to be the case, and I think it's smart right now that they do that. First of all, it keeps Facebook credits only being used on digital items, whether you don't have the problem of returns.
Yeah.
You know, any of that. So they can really just focus on making the technology right. They don't have to deal with returns or any of that.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, for us, we're excited about it because our entire platform lives on Facebook. You know,
Yeah.
it's the whole idea is shopping across the network. You know, so the natural thing is to use your Facebook credits to make that purchase. You know?
I think they're set up very well to do that right now. I mean, really, the biggest thing would be if they wanted to do anything that was recurring, where you know you actually are automatically paying each week for your webcomic. That would take some work. But other than that, you know, it's very straightforward and should be pretty easy for them. I mean, the biggest issue for them is they just need to execute well. Where obviously, you know, one slip in you know in privacy, in charges getting run multiple times, you know, those sorts of problems have big implications when you're dealing with dollars. So as long as they execute well, I don't see any big hurdles for them, and Facebook's good at executing.
Absolutely, this is provides huge value for us. However, they usually don't mix and match.
Right.
The credits gonna stay credits, and that's by itself, and you can do whatever you want with that. And all the mechanisms that they have in terms of bringing new users and reaching the users that you already had, it's pretty much separate. What they're doing right now to mix it up is that they're offering a little bit of a promotion to people who are actually starting to use Facebook credits, but that's not that much. And so they've been very good and very smart about keeping those lines of business separate, and they should continue, frankly, to do that because they're a big company, and the moment they're going to start doing all this interconnected stuff, they're just going to create huge mess for themselves and for everybody around them. So I don't necessarily think that they're going to be able to come up with the programs that will increase retention because of credits.
Yeah.
But they might provide ability for people to spend more because of credits, or they might provide ability for more people to convert because they have. If clearly, if the probability of somebody converting is 30% higher, that makes, or they're spending 30% more because it's so much easier for the city. Another thing that they could do, which I'm not hearing them doing, but they could, and that's complete and total speculation, they obviously will know who is the player on the platform and who is not. And as we know, that business, which is virtual currency business practically, where 2% of people or 3% of people are paying for everybody else to play. But they're paying a lot. And so what it means is that those people are very valuable. If Facebook in any way, shape or form will be able to provide information about who is actually a paying member on other games to a game developer, that piece of data worth a lot of money for us.